What happens when nobody believes the job post anymore? How ghost jobs, broken signals, and platform incentives collapsed hiring trust. Hi, my name is Sarah Trumbull. I'm the founder and CEO of the Job Applicant Perspective, the first anonymous user reviews for job ads across the U.S. This is the level of go-to-market funding, some awareness from our platform, as well as a public service for all the gaslighting out there. This comes from a blog I have on Substack that's coming out soon. My blog posts are being read by reporters from the Wall Street Journal, Atlantic, New York Times, more than that, Axios and whatnot. And I'm just trying to drive paradigm shifts in the online hiring market. That's, a little bit big and stuff, but also entirely necessary. Because I got to tell you, as a structural systems theorist of a person, it is dysregulating to witness such appalling, simple errors being made in such epic scale. It is really difficult to watch people making such basic mistakes in economics. And I need to help. But it also means I'm sitting outside the system. It's always easier when you see it from the outside. And nothing changes when nothing changes. So this is me trying to change something. Education, it matters. So let's get into it. Because, all of my blog posts are an invitation to a conversation. They're not necessarily gospel. You guys are welcome to comment below and say things and, engage with it. Me having ideas and having things doesn't make everything perfect. I am a constant learner. I track my safety and learning always. But also I do know a lot of things too. So that's why I talk. All right, let's get started. So imagine Yelp if half the restaurants didn't exist and no one checked. That's today's hiring market. You see a job on LinkedIn or Indeed, you spend 2 hours applying with your best resume, you check your phone anxiously for the next 2 weeks, silence. Then the same post reappears a month later because no one verifies if it was ever real. We don't verify jobs, say the Department of Labor, FTC, LinkedIn, and Indeed. That single rhetorical sentence explains the collapse of trust in modern hiring. It's George Akerloff's job market for lemons because job seekers have no way to opt out. For the platforms, all engagement is monetizable, aka ghost job clickbait brings nothing but profit. No governmental organization regulates the market products being presented to represent reality. One scammer on LinkedIn pulled down from LinkedIn in 2024 made $440,000 by using affiliate marketing, cloning real profiles and sending job seekers to get their identities stolen. For employers, SaaS listings, a conditioning to ignore the nature of what a two-sided market means in this case leads to extra job postings being used as free advertising because no social, financial, or regulatory mechanism requires them not to pollute the market with litter for immediate financial gain. I gotta tell you, as a systems theorist who knows what a two-sided market is, the utter economic folly, catastrophic folly of this series of behaviors, it is breathtaking to witness. Breathtaking. What is a two-sided market? My God. Sorry, I gotta control myself. But really, who this is for? This isn't just about job seekers. It's for everyone tangled in a hiring system that no longer works. Job seekers sending hundreds of applications into a void, unsure of which jobs are real. Employers and small businesses paying thousands for talent access while drowning in noise. Recruiters juggling fake listings, inflated engagement metrics, and angry clients. Educators and workforce boards guiding people into a system that extracts more than it delivers. Economists, policymakers, and journalists watching hiring dysfunction ripple into the economy. If you hire, apply, regulate, advise, or invest, you're inside the system we're mapping. Core thesis: hiring markets only function when trust signals exist. Verified, reliable information about who's hiring, for what, and under what conditions. When job platforms replace trusted human networks with opaque engagement metrics, incentives flipped. This wasn't just lost. That trust wasn't just lost. It was never required for this market to exist. And thus, distrust was monetized. A hiring market without verification is like a stock market without audits. It will always drift towards fraud. Sorry. The 3 escalations. The ghost layers. Number 1, jobs that don't exist. Ghost jobs are not a glitch. They're infrastructure. Some analysis suggests up to 40% of employers admit to posting fake jobs in a given year. The Wall Street Journal posted an article about 1 in 5 job postings advertised as fake. Every click, resume submission, and boosted application is monetizable engagement. They have to be boosted when there's so much noise in the market. The system rewards illusions of activity. Job seekers waste time, employers lose credibility, platform metrics spike, dysfunction becomes profitable. The institutional void, regulators who vanished. Here's the quiet betrayal. No federal regulator verifies whether a job post is real, active, or filled. The FTC provides consumer advice but doesn't systemically audit listings. Job boards and aggregators escape accountability. There's no regulation for the job seeker end of the spam listings, aka APIs and scraped roles. Swear to God, employers complain about resume spam and talent shortages while neglecting to understand what a scraped job posting is, what APIs are, and how they just flood the market with nonsense. You can't, that's not how it, systems don't work like that. That's not how logic works. 1 and 1, the math doesn't math. Nash's equilibrium and game theory doesn't work like this ever. That's not how math works. Yeah. So job boards and aggregators escape accountability. I often describe this as Yelp, professionally mandated Yelp with no health department and no FDA for a reason, because that's what it is. JOLTS, which is the job opening labor and turnover survey from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, captures open positions, but stagnant hiring rates, hires to openings over the last 10 years, plus soaring recruiter profits, paints a pretty clear picture about what's happening here. I use Recruit Holdings in this example, but you can take a look through the stagnant hiring rate years and soaring profits using the same systemic phenomena for multiple different online vendor players. Is it any surprise? What is more profitable, a vending machine or a slot machine? Which did Vegas choose to build? Follow-up question, what would Vegas's slot machines behave like without regulations? I just flabbergasted. An unregulated algorithm plus an opaque industry plus unpaid users that cannot opt out. Just staggering lack of judgment here. This is not a mystery. It's a predictable behavior from an unregulated system. The legitimacy collapses when no one believes. When nobody believes the job post, every signal in the labor market collapses. Application spam spirals, job seekers submit 30+ resumes a week, thousands of them over months. Employers drown in noise. Scams proliferate, fake listings harvest data and lure applicants. In just the first half of 2024, reported job scam losses topped $220 million, according to the Federal Trade Commission. It's much worse than that, depending on who you talk to. Like Yahoo News had something about like 1.08 trillion a month in 2023 due to job postings that were not filled. Again, it's hard to say because it's so unregulated, but it's not good. Let's just say it's not good. Scammers run test scams, fake interviews, phony onboarding sites, according to the Federal Trade Commission. Small businesses lose visibility to deep-pocketed firms and collapse. A local daycare I interviewed was paying $50 a day for a $12 an hour role that needed to be immediately filled, but the cost of sponsorship kept the pay low, and the low pay meant that in another 2 months, because they couldn't pay rent in it, the person would pop out quickly. They were barely staying open. This is not inefficiency, it is structural opacity sustained because it drives revenue. I describe this as the Corleones. Legit, it's the Corleones, fantasy. Oh, it'd be such a shame if you talked about your hiring process. Something bad might happen. How does that not sound like a mob protection racket? My God, yes. It starts being a protection racket as soon as employers are not running the hiring house anymore. They're not the hiring casino anymore. Why does this matter? The civic collapse frame. When people stop believing the job post, they stop believing the system itself. Markets don't just move money, they move meaning. They're how a society tells its people your effort counts, your time matters. When that belief system breaks, it does not stay confined to the labor market, it metastasizes. People stop trusting institutions, stop voting, stop engaging. They retreat into survival mode. The civic fabric unravels not from ideology, but from exhaustion. I met a leader at my local Michigan Works who believed genuinely that job seekers were putting in at most 75 to 85 applications total. Like, this was 2 years ago. I had to control a sharp intake of breath at the reality disconnect while I was doing this market research so as not to offend. People are easily putting in 50 applications a week for years. 2 years ago. The disconnect between what experts believe is happening and what is actually happening is an ocean. I learned of a study called the Moral Wiggle Room Study, and it really speaks to the systemic engagement that we're seeing here about how people try not to know information because knowing requires them to act. You guys can look it up. I'll probably write about it another way. Looking up the moral wiggle room. When has not knowing about the unpaid, disrespected labor of great swaths of the labor force ever led to civic stability? A democracy cannot survive a population that no longer believes honest work will lead to honest reward. I say it a million times. When the labor market breaks trust with employers, they lose money. When the labor market breaks trust with the labor force, French aristocracy falls. The Russian czars. Like, what are we doing here? Did you guys see, like, the army choir at the ball, in the governor's ball? I feel like that was pretty straightforward. I don't know how to be more straightforward there. Keeping going. You cannot build faith in government while the foundation of faith in work, the daily proof of cause and effect, is quietly rotting underneath it. The way I see it is civic democracy requires economic meritocracy to some degree. Yeah? The moral economic law frame. A market that hides truth trains obedience, not participation. When platforms profit from confusion, distrust becomes the default setting of civic life. The algorithms that should illuminate human value instead reward performance, polish, and deference. It teaches millions of people that silence is safety and curiosity is risk. And when you profit from keeping people guessing, clarity itself becomes rebellion. This is so silly. The logic here is so illogical. Markets are supposed to teach reciprocity. If I offer value, I receive value. But an unregulated engagement economy teaches submission, performance well enough to stay seen, compliant enough not to be punished. This is not capitalism. Supply, submission, supply, compliance, supply aren't how the rhythm goes in actual economic markets. Ever. Other people wrote the books. I just read them. This is not meritocracy. It is economic authoritarianism disguised as efficiency. This is oligarchy. This is kingdom. Empathy as economic infrastructure. The system sensor array for health. Now we're getting in the meat of my systems theory business here. Empathy is not softness. It is infrastructure. Sensitivity is not weakness. It is the mechanism by which a system feels its own errors and corrects course. Every ghost job, ignored application, or fraudulent post is a sensor signal the system has learned to ignore. It is not strength to ignore insight. It is leprosy that leads to sepsis when medicine is easily available. User reviews are that medicine. They are the mechanism of market fraud. Herein lies, I think, what's happening here. The ego entrapment scam. The psychology of the market gets weaponized against institutional decision makers through a cultural exploit, one that targets exactly the people who rose to power through traditional hierarchies before the information age. The cultural shift that they missed. Before the information age, sensitivity was weakness. Information flowed downward because it was fairly well siloed before the information was wet. It flowed downward through hierarchies. Strong leaders saw toughness as power, rationality as reason, and empathy as a liability towards soft decision-making. This worked when information was siloed. The information age inverted this completely. Information now flows laterally through networks. It is power, empathy, the ability to process feedback from others became the sensor array for reality testing. Vulnerability became data, which is power. That is why all functional online marketplaces use reputation systems. They are the scouts that protect against data drift. The internet made the world a snowstorm. Listening to people on the roads is where your strength is. You cannot listen to people in the corporate office, only vendors. But the people who rose to power under the old system never got the memo. Vendors exploit this lag ruthlessly. How empathy control works. The pitch flatters traditional power norms. You can't trust what they tell you. Applicants oversell. Candidates complain. People make excuses. You're not naive like managers who fall for sob stories. You're sophisticated. You need our rational data, not their self-reports. This is the shtick. Any market actor who teaches you which people to view as weak, unreliable, or untrustworthy is announcing with neon signs that they profit from keeping you informationally siloed, isolated from those people. By positioning empathy as weakness and lack of empathy as rationality, the vendor achieves two things simultaneously. Number one, ego entrapment. You're flattered into the tough, discerning professional in-group. Number two, information blockade. You cut yourself off from direct feedback to maintain that status. Asking, what was your application experience like, becomes unprofessional. Wondering, why do qualified people keep dropping out, becomes naive. Your natural instinct to understand the other side gets reframed as poor judgment. You self-center your own curiosity because listening to those people would mark you as soft, gullible, unsophisticated, everything you were trained not to be on your way to power. The vendor or people like them become your only information source. Trust our metrics. Trust our AI. Only we show you what's really happening. The sophistication of the trap. Training contempt into your marks is the most effective form of information control in the digital age. You cannot stop people from talking anymore. Information is everywhere. But you can make decision makers feel like it's ego death to actually listen. The pattern appears everywhere. Intermediaries profit from disconnection. Dating apps, those matches weren't enough. Look, a new person. Keep swiping for the pot of gold at the end of the internet rainbow. Job platforms, those applicants are low effort. It's tough how little talent there is out there. AKA, don't talk or trust job seekers about their experience. You know they're not trustworthy, right? News organizations, other news sources don't cater to ex-voters like you. They're unreliable. AKA, only listen to our news source, our news sources. Recruiting firms, direct applicants oversell. AKA, don't interview candidates without our screening. They aren't trustworthy. Each teaches you to invalidate or distrust the people you came there to meet and or only exclusively trust the vendor for your information. The contempt, distrust, and validation is the tool. The information isolation is the goal. Your continued purchasing is the profit. Pretty soon, the vendor can casually ask, "You're not going to waste your time on embedded input, are you?" You're trapped, making systemically bad decisions while feeling professionally validated. It becomes almost ego blackmail to do anything but double down on illogical business decisions to stay ego safe. You walk into the vendor relationship thinking you're just being flattered, and it becomes an ego cage that to leave feels like you lose who you are. Employers seeking talent, people seeking love, citizens seeking truth all fail the open book test because actually listening to the people they want to connect with feels like losing status in the power structure that now defines their sense of identity. The axiom and the warning. Whether the transaction is for labor, for love, for knowledge, the pattern is the same. The phenomena demonstrates my second online market axiom. I gave my first one last time. I'll say it again below. Axiom number 2, the engagement trap. And I said it in a different way before, but it's the same thing. An online marketplace where vendors operate without empathy towards the stakeholder their customer seeks to meet is a marketplace running an engagement trap for profit. When an intermediary teaches you not to listen to the other side of your transaction, their business model depends on your information isolation. A market that cannot feel itself cannot fix itself. A market that cannot fix itself eventually collapses under the weight of its own indifference. All the while, the solution sits 5 feet away, but it won't reach for it because that would make it lazy. Empathy is what translates pain into feedback and feedback into reform. Without it, dysfunction calcifies into profit and cruelty masquerades as optimization. It's about structural insight and feedback. This is what happens when an economy forgets it's an ecosystem, a living network of human inputs, not a one-way funnel of extraction. The job applicant perspective solution, rebuilding hiring trust. The job applicant perspective restores the feedback loop that vendors profit from severing. They do. They totally do. Job seekers review as professional intelligence. Applicants rate their experience with specific postings, response times, interview quality, whether the job posting was real. When decision makers see patterns across hundreds of reviews, not just for individual complaints, applicant feedback becomes market intelligence rather than whining. Time is currency accountability. We track how much applicant time each posting consumes. When a single open position accumulates 500 hours of unpaid applicant labor with 0 hires, that's not a job, it's extraction. Employers shopping for recruiting services can now demand time as currency, time to applicant contact, metrics alongside cost, forcing platforms to compete on actual outcomes, not just engagement. Transparency dashboards for institutional oversight. Workforce boards and chambers of commerce get real-time visibility into which platforms, companies, and job postings generate ghost job patterns in their region. Invisible dysfunction becomes visible accountability. Scam detection at scale. Fraud fighters like Jay Jones, who took down 32,000 fake jobs on 6,000 scammers alone, should not work in isolation. The job applicant perspective aggregates fraud signals so one person's flag protects thousands of people. This is not a feature add-on. It is the verification infrastructure the market should have had from the beginning. Every other market, when it went from the newspaper online, required this. The fact that this one didn't get it is pretty indicative. Call to action. If we cannot see what's real, we cannot fix what's broken. Job seekers, leave a review. Share your experience. Make ghost jobs visible. Workforce boards and chambers of commerce request transparency dashboard demo for your region. Employers, prove your jobs are real. Claim your company page and showcase your hiring integrity. Everyone, flag scams. Share this. Help rebuild trust. Start here at the job applicant perspective. Job applicant perspective is how we rebuild the house so it belongs to everyone again. Thank you. Please stop by. Flag ghost jobs, scam jobs, whatever. The biggest thing you need to understand is when you apply for a job and they ghosted you within 10 minutes, think about it like you stopping at a gas station 10 years ago. They don't remember you. You don't remember what the gas station attendant looked like, did you? That's how much they remember you. The reason they ghosted you is because they don't care. This is a good thing. This means they don't care, which means you can share information safely. You are a profit driver in a $600 billion industry. You absolutely get to describe what this experience is like for you. Absolutely you do. You are an unprotected consumer. You absolutely have a right for something better, but you have to choose it. You have to choose that part as well. And choosing it for yourself, you choose it for others as well, and they choose it for you. We can help each other. Yeah? Yelp, in a world of professionally mandated fine dining with no health department and no FDA. It can be great. Please stop by. The more job seekers that are there, the more infrastructure, like the more funding investment I can get. Yeah. I'm working on both ends of the market right now, and this is me working on the job seeker end too. So stay sane out there. The world needs more sane people, and the gaslighting is strong out there. The thing that I could say to you is, please remember, 1 and 1 is still 2. Birds still fly and are real. And you saw what you saw. You heard what you heard. If it was hard for you, it was hard. If it was too much, it was too much. You matter, and you mattered the whole time. And I'm so sorry this is happening. And I'm here to do my best with what I can. Stay sane out there. Be kind to other drivers on the road. We don't have to have money, but we can have kindness for each other. You know? Have a good one.